Data Analytics in Excel by Ken Anonaku.
So today's class is data analysis in Excel or data analytics in Excel. Now, like I explained to us in our previous lecture, the foundational technical skill for data analysis has always been Microsoft Excel. The journey to data analysis technically begins with Microsoft Excel. And that is why we will begin from Microsoft Excel now. Microsoft Excel is one of the Office applications developed by Microsoft. And it is very robust. It's a very big application. As a matter of fact, Microsoft Excel can be used to run any analytical process that you want to do. Even though there are some tools like Power BI, Tableau, Click, and the rest of them that has come up to actually become so good too. But Microsoft Excel still has several features that makes it stand out. In today's class, we're going to be looking at, first of all, the foundation, the fundamentals of Microsoft Excel. I know some of us already have some level of knowledge in Microsoft Excel, but I also understand that a good number of us don't know Excel at all. At the same time, I know also, of course, from experience, some persons will come in to tell you they know Microsoft Excel, but in the real sense of it, they do not really know much. And I'd like you to know whichever category you fall into, just listen to the lecture. It will amaze you to discover that there are certain tools that you've ignored, but they are very powerful tools. I will take time to be well detailed. The lecture, like I told you, will not take a very long time. I just think we want to be spending an hour. Then we'll schedule another lecture for Sunday. But I will try to lay a strong foundation, because at the course of this training, I will try to deal with Microsoft Excel extensively. And because of that, I would like to lay a very good foundation. It will be such that somebody who has never entered an Excel class before can follow. Like I told you, it's going to be a Do It With Me series. Right now, you might be listening to the lecture, but after the class, take time to replay the lecture and do everything you see me doing one after the other. That's the essence of recording it. And always do your best to see that you replay the lecture over and over again. I was encouraged when somebody chatted me and told me that he has replayed the previous class over and over again. That's the spirit. Write notes. Prepare yourself such that by the time we are finishing Microsoft Excel, you are already getting set to begin to sample some jobs. That is the way I tell my students. I tell them, don't wait until I graduate you before you begin to look for a job. From the moment that you are finishing Microsoft Excel, you should be able to do a lot of analytical processes. So you start preparing yourself to pick up a good job, face interviews. Even if you fail, find out why you failed and make up for them. So today, We are beginning from Microsoft Excel fundamentals, and then we will proceed to entering and editing text and formula. After that, we will look at working with basic Excel functions. There are some basic Excel functions that are very important, and we're going to look at them. But please, at the course of the lecture, if you have any question, just raise your hand with the icon there, or you drop a note. I will respond to it. If you want me to rewind, I will do that. But at the end of the lecture also, I will answer every question, so you may have to document your questions and ask them when I give time for questions. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give time for questions 2 times. Halfway, I will give time, then at the end of it too. After looking at working with basic Excel functions, the next thing will be to look at how to modify an Excel worksheet. Excel is a very sweet application, very outstanding. If you understand Excel, you will be so happy with yourself. And after that, we will look at how to format data in an Excel worksheet. These are the things we're going to cover today. And I think with this, we can now proceed to the classroom. This is my desktop. And the first thing you do if you want to begin to work with Microsoft Excel is to open the application. I call it invoking the application. So now we are going to invoke Microsoft Excel. There are different ways of invoking Microsoft Excel. Number one is if you can point to your start button. If you're using Windows 11, you're going to see it like this. But if you're using Windows 10, then you will see your start button probably at the left down corner. So you click on the start button. Now, if you have Microsoft Excel pinned to the start bar, then you will have it here. Then you click on it to open. But peradventure, you don't have it here, then you can now type Excel on the bar here. Once you type Excel, as you're typing Excel, you will see the application here. You can click on it too. Alternatively, you may have Microsoft Excel pinned to the taskbar. This is called the taskbar. You see the taskbar here. You follow Microsoft, that's it here, the taskbar. You can click on it. Finally, you may have Microsoft Excel also as a shortcut on your desktop. All these are various ways that you can open Microsoft Excel. So we're going to go ahead to open Microsoft Excel with one of the options now. So I'd like you to listen very well as we move on. Okay, so let's go ahead. I click on my start button. I have Microsoft Excel pinned on my start bar. I click on it. Now I will wait a moment. Microsoft Excel opens. This is the welcome banner, the first banner you will see, the first background you will see in Microsoft Excel. Notice by the left-hand side, you will see home, you will see new, and you will see open. When you click on home, of course, the home is already active. If you click on new, new will become active, and you click on open, open will become active. Then in the home tab here, you will see blank workbook. Just as we want to begin now, we want to start from the scratch. So we will have to open blank workbook. But what are all these ones here? These are templates. Excel provides you with a lot of templates. We're going to look at that later. You have templates for results. You have templates for formula tutorial. You have templates for so many things. But mind you, for you to use Excel templates, you must be connected to the internet. And Excel can also present you with more templates, just as you can see. But because we want to do take a systematic approach, or because we want to critically look at Excel from the basics, we'll click on the blank workbook and Excel opens for us. And once Excel opens for us, then we have the Excel interface. And this is where we're going to begin from now. Looking at the Excel interface or the Excel window, the first thing that you will see is what we call the ribbon. Now, look at this. From here down to this point, where my cursor is moving, is the ribbon. The ribbon consists of the tabs. Like you have the home tab, the insert tab, the page layout, the formula tab, the data tab. All these are commands used in Excel. And if you look at this closely, you will realize that when you click on any tab, the commands will be displayed on the ribbon below here. So, for example, if I click on the home tab, I'll see the commands. If I click on the insert tab, I see the commands. We will look at these commands as we progress. But take note that the first thing you observe once Excel opens is the ribbon, which consists of the tabs and the location where the formulas are displayed. Now, when you're working with Excel, you will notice that Excel gives you some level of flexibilities. And some of these things, we are going to look at them. Now, exactly below the ribbon, we have the formula bar. When you point the cursor on it, you will see the name will appear, formula bar. We are going to make use of this formula bar as we progress, and we will explain what it can do. Beside the formula bar is the name box. The name box. Now, look at the following activities. When you attempt to double-click a tab, look at this home tab now. If I attempt to double-click this tab, you will notice that it collapses the ribbon for me. In some cases, when you are working in Microsoft Excel, you might want to secure some more spaces so that you can view your data set effectively. What you might need to do is to collapse the ribbon such that whenever you click on any tab, the ribbon will come out. And when you click outside into a cell, the ribbon disappears. If I want to restore the ribbon again, I double click on this home tab again. Now, take note, it must not be the home tab. Any tab can serve. I double click on the insert tab. Once I double click on the insert tab, it closes up. I double click on it again, it opens up. So take note of that simple situation. Now let's go ahead. Looking at Microsoft Excel, one thing you will discover is that below the ribbon, you will see that Excel is divided into columns and rows. That makes it look boring, but that's the interesting thing about Excel. You look at column A, column B, column C. Now, Excel is divided into columns and rows. Columns run vertically. Columns are vertical, while rows are horizontal. Example, you can see column A. And one thing you will notice also is that when you click on the column letter, please listen well. When you click on the column letter, like we have column letter A, column letter B, once you point your cursor on the column letter, you will see an arrow pointing down. And once you click on that arrow, it highlights the entire column. The same thing is applicable to the row. When you point the cursor on any of the row numbers, so you see, we have column letters, we have row numbers. If you click your cursor on the row number, like row number 1, row number 2, you can now see that the entire row becomes highlighted. That's amazing. That's one beautiful thing about Excel. I'm going to show you some things that even some of you who use Excel might have not taken note of it. Now, just keep watching. Now, another thing you need to discover about the Excel window is that every column and every row meets at a particular place. For instance, look at column D and look at row 6. If you watch, row 6 and column D met here, and this place is called a cell, C-E-L-L, cell. It's called a cell. So a cell in Excel can be defined as a cell in Excel can be defined as the meeting point between the column and the row. Somebody is saying that the volume is too low. I can hardly hear me. Please, are you sure it's not from your system? Can I have some people confirming something? I'm not first. Can you hear me, please? On the chat box, I mean, somebody is saying my volume is low, but I'm thinking it should be from the system. Okay, my volume is okay. Can you hear me? So please, also that you check the volume of your system. I strongly believe it should be. I'm even using a microphone, loud and clear. Okay, Pastor Ben. Yeah. Okay. So please check your volume. So let's go ahead. Please do not hesitate to drop a message on the chat box. I'm always looking out for that. I will respond immediately because I want to make sure I carry everybody along. Like I told you, if you've not even entered Excel class before, just relax. I am not here to give you big formulas for today. I'm not here to fascinate anybody. I've been working in Excel for the past 25 years, and so I don't think I have anybody to fascinate here. My interest is to carry all of us along. So I'm going to be down to earth. I will take it systematically. You can stop me and ask me any question, but make sure you replay this and make notes. I want to stress that by the end of this Excel class, after 2 months, 1 month or 2 probably, some people will be snapping the note they made and send it to me, and I'll be so glad. That is so amazing to me. So a column and a row meets at a place called a cell. Like we have column D and row 6 meeting at this point. Now in Excel, when you want to name, okay, you must know that every cell has what we call a cell address. Yes, every cell has what we call a cell address. It is important you take note of that because that will help us in analysis. Example, if you look at this column D and row 6 meeting here, the address of this highlighted cell is called D6. D6. Let me give you an example. I've highlighted another cell now. Let me delete this and I highlight another cell now. Who can tell me what is the address of the highlighted cell from the chat box? Who can tell me? What is the address? Oh, okay, G7. Beautiful. I'm happy some people are following me. That's okay. So that is G7. Now take note of this. In addressing a cell, when you want to address Excel, you put the column letter first before the row number. It's a rule. That is the language Excel understands. If you want to address a cell, you put the column letter first before the row number. For instance, you say G7 and not 7G. G7 and not 7G. Is that clear? Yes. G7. So like we have now, like what I have now, I have G21 and you cannot say 21G. So take note of that. Now, if you go up a little bit, if you can follow my cursor now, you will see where I am pointing the cursor at now. It's called the name box. The name box. And you can see it reading G21. The name box displays the address of the active cell. The name box is called name box. It displays the address of the active cell. Now, if we go beside the name box, you see the formula bar. What the formula bar does is that the formula bar displays the content of the active cell. For instance, if I have an active cell as this, of course, the active cell is the cell that is ready to receive data. G17 now is the active cell. I may decide to type castle. You can see that the content of this active cell has been displayed on the formula bar. If I hit enter and I click on it again, I will see the content displaying on the formula bar. Not just that alone. If it's a formula that you used here, the formula will be displayed here also. But we're going to see that. Let's not be in a hurry. Let's just move systematically. So, do any questions so far before we continue? Can you have anybody? Are we following? If you're following, can you type on the chat box, I'm following, so we can move again? On the chat box, just tell me I'm following. Yes. Can I have about 3-4 persons? Okay, I'm following. Yes, I'm following. Any question? Okay. So, any question so far? Okay, if there's no question, then let's go ahead. Oh, beautiful. Okay, somebody is saying, please read. Okay. What was that, sir? Okay, can you resend that note again? It's overtaken by other notes. Okay, you said using both my phone now and the laptop for the Excel. Okay, so what's the what? If you're using both, it's okay. If you're using both, it's okay. There's no problem about that. But then laptop is better. So what else? Okay, you just join. Okay. Okay, you can't access Zoom. Okay, you don't have Zoom installed in your system. That's no problem. We'll rectify that later. I think you might need to follow the class as we move on. Just follow us. You have nothing to lose. You can replay also. But let's just move on. Let's okay. I've not actually done much, but just keep following us. Keep following us. You will. I will try to make sure I carry you along. I can see. Okay. Just we've not done much. I'm going to carry everybody along. Don't bother much. We only opened Microsoft Excel and we looked at the tabs simply. We talked about the ribbon generally, and that's what. So we now went down to the Excel sheet being divided into columns and rows. That is just that. So let's go ahead. Now, having looked at that, every Excel book opens with at least one sheet by default. Every Excel book opens with one sheet. If you look down here, you can see sheet 1. That is the default sheet. But there's one thing I need to show you that is amazing about Microsoft Excel. If you look at column A, column B, column C, column D, column E down, you will think it will end in Z, but it will amaze you. And as you move, after Z, it continues. You can see AJ, AK. So what is the last Excel cell? What is the last cell? What's the last column? And what is the last row? That's quite serious. Now let's look at this now. If I click into the first cell, this is cell A1. I hold down my control key. Listen well. And hold down my control key. Then hit the right arrow key. If you look at your keyboard, we have 4 arrows. We usually have 4 arrows at the right down part. One is facing up, one is facing down, one is facing left, one is facing right. If I hit the one facing right, you will notice that it takes me to the very last row. XFD. That's amazing. If you notice that, can you make me know you got that? Eh? Are you there? Okay. So now I'm at the end now. If I want to go back again also, I will hold down my control key and hit the arrow facing left. That takes me back to my home. If I want to see the last row, I hold down my shift key also and hit the down arrow. So can you see that we have as much as 104,000? Oh, that's about 1 million, 4 something. That's quite big. You can see that now. So I can move back again, holding down my control key and hitting my up arrow. And that gives me this. It's amazing. How many of us have noticed this before? You've worked with it before. Can I see you say, I've seen this for the first time, or I've been using it? Okay, somebody is saying repeat. Somebody is saying repeat. I'm going to repeat this again. Please listen. I will repeat this again. Okay, just listen again. I go to the cell A1, which is my very first cell A1. Now, I want to see the last column. Remember that the first column is column A, and I'm in cell A1. I want to see the last column. I will hold down my control key. If you look at your keyboard, you will see the key there, control key, CTRL. It's called the control key. There are 2 on the keyboard. the two of them do the same thing just for easy use. The two of them they do this, they carry the same function. There are special keys that carry special function. So if I hold down the control key, I will hit that arrow, that arrow that points to the right. Remember, I told you that on your keyboard you have 4 arrows there. One points to the left, one to the right, one up, one down. The one pointing to the direction you want to move, you hit it. That takes us to the end. The other one points backward, you move it back. The one pointing down, you move it down. So make sure your hand is on the control key. The one pointing up, you move it up. So that is, I believe you've got that. Okay. That's the first time. Beautiful. Okay. Pastor, I hope you've got that now. That's it. You're going to see a lot of beautiful things. I told you, some of us that use Excel before now, you see some amazing things that will shock you. And you realize that Excel has such a powerful engine, much bigger than you expect. So let's go ahead. Having seen that now, you've seen how big the Excel spreadsheet can look like. But then, remember, we're just dealing with one sheet. I told you that Excel opens with one sheet at default, and it calls this sheet 1. Now, if you look beside the sheet 1, you're following my cursor now, always follow my cursor. You're following my cursor, you will notice that you will see the plus sign there. Click on that plus sign or add a new sheet for us. Sheet 2 has been added. Click on it again, sheet 3. Click on it again, sheet 4. So I can do that and go on until I add the number of sheets I want. That's amazing. So you have sheet 1, you have sheet 2, you have sheet 3, you have sheet 4. Any sheet you want to set active, click on the sheet tab. This is called the sheet tab. The sheet tab. Yeah, any sheet you want to get active, you click on the sheet tab, and that gets it active. That's beautiful. Now, why do we have this opportunity to create many sheets? For instance, if you are analyzing some data that involve things that happen across 1 year, and you want to differentiate them in months, you can use each sheet to represent a particular month. For instance, I can say, let sheet 1 represent January. So what I will simply do is I right-click the sheet, go to rename, and I can call it January, and hit enter. That's it. So every information about January, it can be your January budget, it can be your January sales, it can be whatever thing. It can be whatever thing that you want to get. Like, so let me go ahead and rename this. I can right click, go to rename, and type February. I hit enter. Now, alternatively, I can double click on the sheet tab and go ahead and type what I want to type, March. Hit enter. I go ahead, double click on this, April. Hit enter. I can go ahead, double click on this, type May, and then type June. That's a beautiful exercise. So with this now, I can put every information about January here, February here. It can also be week 1, week 2, week 3. It can also be 2021, 2022, 2023. It can be Department of Biological Science. It depends on whatever thing you're doing. If it's result computation, it can be year 1, year 2. It can be 100 level, 200 level. So you know how to categorize it. You know how to break down your data. You can use that. And these sheets can be deleted. Assuming I don't want this again, June, I can right click on it and hit delete. June goes. I can right click on this, hit delete. So as I continue, now look at what will happen now. What will happen? I'm deleting them. I simply right click my mouse, hit delete. And when I get to the last, which is the only sheet remaining, and attempt to delete it, Excel will refuse to delete it, and it will tell me that a workbook must contain at least one visible worksheet. So take note of this, that you cannot delete the whole worksheet. One must remain. And from that one, we can decide to add more. I can add more, add more. There are many other ways you can add more. You can right click this and insert. Click OK. Now, assuming I want to add 5 at a time, I want to add 5 at a time, starting from sheet 8. I can go to insert and possibly look for a command. Okay, from layout, I'll possibly see a command that can add a good number for me, but we will come to that as we move on. So you can choose to add as much number as you can. Even when you say insert, you can add more. So we can, if you, okay, let's go ahead so that you'll be able to follow very well. So this is 2, 3, 4 sheets present now, and we may want to delete them. Let's have only one so that we can be able to. There is more to the sheets which we are going to look at later, but let's go ahead. So with this now, we've been able to look at some few things on the Excel window. Another important thing there is, how do I save my work in Microsoft Excel? Very simple, just like other Office applications. You click on File, you go to Save or Save As. Now, you use Save or Save As. Any of them you use at this point, will first of all suggest that you give the computer, that you give the file a name, and that you also select a location. This is the first saving. When you are trying to save a document for the first time, it is very important you give it a name and that you select a location. So 2 of these commands will do the same thing because you are saving for the first time. But take note of what happens now. If I click on save, look at this save as now. Save as, there's nothing here. But if I click on save, you will notice that the save as becomes highlighted. This is because what it wants to actually do is to save it as a particular name. So when you click on that, you can now select the location you want to save the work. You can choose to save in OneDrive. You can choose to save in a shared location. But for me, I want to save it on my desktop. Therefore, I will click on Browse, then navigate to my desktop. Once I click on Browse, this dialog box you are seeing will appear. This is called a dialog box. I will now need to select the location I want to save it. But because I want to save on the desktop, I will either click desktop here, or I come from here and see if I can see it. If I can't see it here, I will come to this place and select desktop. Then I will give the file a name. I can call the file cursor, and then look at save as type. By default, you are saving it as an Excel workbook by default. You can also decide to save it by any other file formats, but I'm going to deal with these 5 formats as we move ahead. You can choose any file format, but let us choose the Excel format. Then I can go ahead and hit my save. this file has been saved and I saved it on the desktop. If I want to confirm that it has been saved, I will go to the title bar and see the name now, Castle Excel, meaning that it has been saved with the name Castle. Are we still going together? Can I have some persons tell me that following? Are we following? 2, 3 confirmations. I continue. I want to make sure I'm carrying all of us along. If you're not, if you have any question, you can ask at this point. Yes. Otherwise, okay. Beautiful. Okay. Obi Victory is following. Okay. Pastor Ben, you're following. I'm happy that we're following. Good. 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 So I believe the rest of us are following. So let's move on. Let's move on. We're moving into something more serious now. Okay. Beautiful. 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 Now, don't forget that this lecture is being recorded. And I've always encouraged you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get other lectures. But help yourself to replay this over and over again so that you can make notes. Now, try to do it. This is a do it with me series. Try to do it when you are practicing. Don't assume you've understood it. Don't ever assume. I know what I'm talking about. I was taught by the Indians, and each time they're teaching me, one of the things they tell me is, do it. Don't assume you've understood the code. Write it over and over again, and I discovered that each time I write it, it enters. So please try to do the same. You'll be helping us to move faster. Okay, so let's go ahead. We are done with describing a few things that we need to know at this level. I want us now moving into something very important. Excel has 3 major data entry types. If you want to enter data into Excel, you can do that in 3 ways. 1, Excel has what we call labels. Excel has what we call values. And Excel has what we call formula. I mean, label, value, and formula entry. So we have label entries, we have value entries, and we have formula entries. What do they mean? Let me explain that. Please pay attention as I explain. If I want to make entry into Excel, for instance, now in cell A1, I want to make an entry. Let me just say family budget. Family budget. And I want to have it here. So we have some bills. Like in our houses, we have bills. We have some bills. And you know, there are so many areas like have rent. Sorry. We have fees, some fees. We have food. These are some bills. We have utilities. Okay, we have some utility bills. Okay, let's be specific. Let's talk about. You could have some clothes to buy, transport, and you can go on to add more things. And these bills, I want to make what looks like a yearly budget. Possibly, I want to document budget. So we can have this January here, February here, we have March, and April, and so on. You can go on now. Now, I've just made some data entry. To make an entry into Excel, simply click into the cell where you want the entry to enter and type what you want. Very simple. I want to make an entry here. Click into this cell and go ahead and type. Once you finish typing, press the enter key and Excel will just accept it. The same way also, you want to delete what you've typed, click on the cell and delete. But let me call your attention to something now. I typed food here. If I click on it once, you will notice that the content of this cell, which is A6, sorry, will be displayed on the formula bar. This is the formula bar. This is the formula bar. The content has been displayed on the formula bar. If I want to edit this, assuming I wanted to type, maybe I want to type rice, and I mistakenly typed this. So I am talking about the rice you eat. I need to correct this. There are so many ways of correcting it without deleting it entirely. Some people will just go ahead and delete it and retype. What you simply do is click into the cell, click once on the cell, then go to the formula bar and move the cursor with your arrow key to where the letter you want to change is. Use your backspace to delete the letter and replace it. Then hit enter. It gets corrected. That is one way you can do that. Another way you can do it is, take note of this. Clicking on a cell once. Clicking on a cell once is different from clicking on it, double clicking on it. When you double click on a cell, the cursor blinks there. Let me repeat this again. If you click on a cell once, the insertion point will come. This rectangle that appears here is called the insertion point. It appears there. But when I click on it twice, that is double click, 2 fast clicks, the cursor will begin to blink there. And when the cursor blinks there, I can now use my arrow key to move to what I want to correct and correct it. So it's either you use the formula bar or you use the technique of double clicking on it twice and moving to the letter and changing it. Can somebody tell me I understand? Or if you didn't understand, let me know. If you understood what I said, tell me I'm following you. Can I have some witnesses before I continue? These are some fundamental issues that we need to go through. Can I have somebody tell me is following? Can I have some people? Okay. Yes. Okay. If you're not following, can you signify briefly while I continue? I'm going deeper. Remember this class? I'm going deeper so you can be able to pick up some things. All right, let's go ahead again. Now I've got this now. I will want to make some entries now. Rent for January is 20,000. Okay, let me assume rent for January is 2,000. I hit enter. Fees is 2,003. I hit enter. Food is 4,005. I hit enter. Cloth is 2,003. I hit enter. I'm assuming these figures. Transport is 1,2. I hit enter. And rice is 4,5. I hit enter. I can go ahead and get this also. For February, I can assume This is 2 increase to 2, 3 Nigerian factor has happened to it. 2, 4. Let me assume some figures here so that we can be fast enough. And I don't know if you are making any observation between the entries I made here and here. Can somebody tell me what you observed between when I typed in these labels and when as I type in these values? Did you see the difference between the entries? Yes. Can I have somebody tell me what you observed? Then you have 2, 3 persons. Tell me what they observed. Yes. What are your observations? Yes. Okay. Somebody is saying yes. Okay. Let me get your. What did you observe? What did you observe? Rent and but the alphabets and the numbers. What did you observe? Can I want to know who is following. At least the observation. What did you observe? The text moved to the left. Somebody is saying the text moved to the left. Yes, beautiful. 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 Numbers move to the right. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yes, yes. I love that observation. Yes, while numbers are aligned to the that's beautiful. That's amazing. That shows you're following. That shows you're following. Now let me explain to you something there. Let me explain to you something there. Now, by default, Excel has a default setting that when you type a label, labels are alphabets and alphanumerical entries. Alphabets and alphanumerical entries. When you type in an alphabet or any alphabet related thing or a combination of alphabet and numbers, Excel will move it to the left by default. But when you type numbers, that's values, Excel will move it to the right by default. So take note of that. When you type labels, labels are alphabet entries like names or alphanumerical entries. Excel moves it to the left by default. While when you type values, Excel moves it to the right. That's beautiful. So we can decide to have what we call total here, and we can have total here too. Now, when we total here, we are trying to get the total of what was spent in the month of January. And when we total here, we are trying to get the total of what was spent on each item. It's more or less like a two-way classification. Okay, now we are done with the entry now. One more thing I want to add as we continue is this. What if I want to sum the whole of this? What if I want to sum the whole of this? That is now the formula entry. Remember I told you there are 3 types of data entry in Excel. One is label, which I've demonstrated here and here. This second one is values, which are demonstrated here. Then the formula entry. Assuming I want to get the total of all the January spendings, what I will most likely do is, now take note, whenever you want to perform a calculation in Excel, the first thing you do to let Excel know that you want to perform calculation is by putting an equal to sign. You can see that equal to. Now let me zoom this a little bit. Let me zoom this a little so that some of us can see it clearer. Think clearer now. Now, if I want to perform any calculation in it, no matter the calculation, whether complex or not complex, the first thing you will do is to put an equal to sign. That shows Excel that you want to perform calculation. Then I want to sum all that happened in January. Ordinarily, as a beginner, when I put equal to, I will now say 2,000 plus 2003 plus 4005 plus 2003 plus 1002 plus 4005. And when I hit enter, that's amazing. Excel gives me the total of this. If I click on the result and I go to formula bar, you can now see that the formula bar displays the formula that generated the content. You can now see that from here. Now, if I double click on this result here, I will see this. But there is one thing about this method. What if I want to enter 2,000 and I enter 20,000? So that's a very critical one. What if, as I type in this, I want to enter 2,000, I can make a mistake of entering 20,000, and that will be disastrous. 34,800 naira, because an error has occurred here. So that makes that first method not effective. Number two, what if there is a change? Assuming this 1, 2 is no longer 1, 2, they said it's 12,000. Possibly I add the 0 to it. I hit enter. It will now require my coming to this result to come and correct it again here. If I am dealing with a large data, is that what I'm going to be doing? So that makes it so cumbersome. It therefore means that this method should be discarded. So I hit delete. Now, what do I do next? I will use a method called the relative cell referencing. Relative cell referencing. That method tells me to use my cell address instead of using the numbers. For instance, if I put equal to sign, if I want to type, instead of typing 2,000, I will say B4. B4. You can see B4 highlighted. Instead of using 2, 3, I will say B5. So I can say B4 plus B5 plus B6 plus B7 plus B8 plus B9. Excel is amazing. You can see as you enter the cell address, it marks it for you. So reducing any error that you will most likely have. This method of using the cell address instead of using the numbers direct is called relative cell referencing. That is, you will be where you are and you will sum the whole of the cell ahead of you. Once I hit enter, I still get the same result. Now take note of this now. With this method now, there can be no mistake of assuming 2,000 to be 20,000. And number two, assuming this value is not 2003, that it is now 23,000. If I add extra 0 behind and hit enter, you will notice that the result changes automatically. That is the power of relative cell referencing. Can I have you respond? Did you follow this technique? I want to make sure everybody follows this. You see, we are climbing the ladder of data analysis using Excel gradually. So I don't want to leave anybody behind. I'm going to get to those complex formulas you've been hearing about. Oh, beautiful, 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 beautiful. Okay, okay. Did anybody, are we losing anybody? Is there any question? I want to address the question from the cradle. I want to make sure I deal with everything from the foundation. Any question? Let me see. Is there any question? Because the journey is far. So I want to make sure that even though we're going to stop very soon, that you have to take time to revise what you've done. Okay, no question. Beautiful, we can go ahead. Then now, since we've gotten this, I will have to also get the total here. But mind you, a lot of going ahead to calculate the total on this column now, I can decide to copy this. How do I copy it? I right click, copy this formula. What I'm copying is not this number. What I'm copying is the formula. This is how the Excel engine works. I come to this cell, right click, and paste it. Automatically, I have this now. Did you see that? Now, if you look at this, if you double click on it, you will see it's calculating B4, B5, B6. If you look at this, it's calculating C4, C5. So you moved it to the next one, meaning that it copied the formula. It's a simple technique in Excel. It's very amazing. Excel is a very interesting application. This is what we call relative cell referencing. I can do the same here also. I can go ahead and right click and copy this formula again. If I copy this formula again, I can right click here also and paste it through. And that's so amazing. Now, alternatively, watch this now. Alternatively, I can come to this first result. If you look at this, that's a dot here. Let me scroll up. You can see something like a dot here. Is an auto-fill handle. Once you point the cursor on it, it turns to a cross. Watch it again. Watch it again. My cursor is a thick cross now. If I point it on this place, it turns to a thin, just like plus. It turns to a plus. And I will now hold it down. That I will hold my left mouse down and drag it towards this direction. And you'll notice that it gives me the sum of this also. That is how amazing Excel can be. The same thing is applicable here also. I may decide to also get the total here. How do I get the total? Equal to, I can now say B4. Look at it, B4. But instead of saying B4, I can go ahead and click on it and you see B4 there. I can say plus, I will click on this, C4. I can say plus, I click on this. So any of the methods you want to use, plus, I'll click on this also. And I can now hit enter. And I now decide to either copy the formula or click on the auto-fill handle and drag it down to this point. Otherwise, assuming I have the data spanning down to thousands, it will mean that dragging this will mean I'll keep dragging down. So what I will do is, when I come to this auto-fill handle, I'll point the cursor on it. Once it changes to plus, I will double click. It will just fill up. Who followed what I did? Can I have some witness in the house following me? We are coming to the end of today's class, but then if you follow the last movement I made, okay, okay, okay. If you want me to repeat it, I can repeat it again. Oh, somebody saying repeat. Okay, let me repeat. Let me repeat again. Let me just listen again. I calculated the first one. Okay, okay. I'm repeating. Just watch again. I'm repeating. My joy is that you're following me. Now look at this now. Don't forget, I want to sum all the expenditures made on rent. January rent was 2,000, February 2003, March 3,004, and April 3,004 also. I want to get the sum so I can say equal to, remember that this 2,000 okay, was still there. Sorry. All right. Okay. B4 plus C4 plus D4. I'm being gentle now. Plus E4. And I hit enter. I've just got that. Alternatively, I can delete this and do is equal to, instead of typing, I just click on this. B4 will appear. I'll add plus, I'll click on this. C4 will appear. There are many ways of doing things in Excel. C4, say plus E4. And once I get there, I hit enter. It gives me the result. Now, and I said that having gotten the result now, that to get the rest of them, ordinarily, I point the cursor on the broken rectangle, click and hold it down, and drag it down. And automatically, it will sum the rest of them. But I can decide to use another alternative method. That method is because, assuming the data is up to 50,000, dragging this will be a big work for me. So what I will simply do is to double click on this broken rectangle. Once I point the cursor, instead of dragging it, I will double click on it. It will fill up the sum for me. I think that is clearer now. Pastor Ben, Sister Joy, can you comment? Are you following now? Did you understand it now? Can you point out where the okay. So Pastor Ben, are you with us now? I want all of us to follow. Any question so far before we continue? Okay. So we can go ahead. So that's amazing. That's pretty amazing. And I believe the budget is done and clear. At this point, I think we may need to draw the curtain for today. Let me take one or two questions. The journey is still very much ahead. But if I may add one more thing to cap it up, I will want to look at the percentage. Let me look at the percentage of each of these items to the total. Now, listen very well. I want to look at what percentage of the rent was spent, what percentage of the total is the rent. In this case now, I want to know what percentage of the total is the rent. It's just like saying, do you know I spent the whole about 15% of my salary on this, or I spent 20% of that the whole money on this. So what percentage of the total amount is the rent? By so doing, by that would mean to get put equal to, then you have cell F1 divided by that is backward slash divided by the total. If you take note of that, you hit enter, which means 0.1, which is not in percentage. Of course, we can change it to percentage, but you can see that it's about 10%, because if we format this as percent now, we're going to come to that. It will eventually give us what we want. But there's something I want to bring out there. I want to bring out something there. Please listen very well. I want to introduce finally what we call the absolute cell referencing. The absolute cell referencing. Now that I've got what similarly looks like the percentage of the rent, what about the fees? What about the fee? Somebody will say, why not draw down? If I try to draw down now using that formula, you know that is relative cell referencing. You will realize that I have an error. That's serious. Who can tell me why this error? Can I have somebody respond? Why this error? Who is following that list, and why this error? Let me hear you respond. I thought the formula will work. Look at what I did. Look at that. I've just got this over this to get the percentage. And I drew it down to get the rest. It didn't work. It's giving me hashtag div/0 exclamation. Why? Yes? Somebody is saying the values are not same. That's not correct. Because of decimal. No. Because of decimal, no. The cell is not the same. I don't understand what you mean by the cell is not the same. Can you explain further? And I want us to end with this. Can you explain further? What do you mean? Can I have others respond? I think F10 is constant. Beautiful. That must be a mathematician talking. F10 should be constant. So if you look at this closely, you realize that when you click on this, you realize that what we did is F4 over 10 over F10, which is this divided by this. And relative cell referencing, when I moved down to the second one, it moved down this way down, F5 to F11, which means that it was dividing F5 with empty. When I moved down, it moved down to F6. Look at it, F6 over F12. When I move down this, when you move down this, you realize that when I move down here, so one thing that should be done there is this. We're going to find a way of making this F10 constant. F10 should be constant. So how do we make it constant? It's a very important. I want to end with this. How do we make it constant? Now, that is what we call absolute cell referencing. We need to make this F10 absolute. How do we make it absolute? Okay, by okay, somebody is responding. All right, beautiful. At least you have an idea. To make it absolute, you click on this result. What? You click on this result you got in the first one. Take note. Take note. You click on the result you've got in the first one. Then go to the formula bar, or you double click on the result, then come in front of F, put a dollar sign, come after F, put a dollar sign. Please take it religiously. That is what it is. After solving and getting the first cell, come in front of the particular cell you want to make absolute, which is F10. On the result, go to in front of the alphabet, before the alphabet, put dollar sign. Go to the front of the alphabet, put dollar sign, and then hit enter. You will notice that the result will not change. The result will remain the same, but you've made it absolute. So now, when you drag now, you realize that the result is there. Can somebody tell me I can see? And once the result is there, yes, well, once the result is there, you click on this, you will notice F4 over F10, you click on this, F5 over F10, you click on this, F6 over F10, you click on this, F7 over F10. So all of them are now over F10, making F10 absolute. That is strongly amazing. Microsoft Excel can be very interesting. You've just seen nothing. We've not even scratched it yet. Let me tell you this. You don't need to be a mathematician to use Excel. You are not the one doing the mathematics. Excel will do it for you. All you need is that simple mathematics with which you walk on the street. That mathematics that makes your steps equal. That's what we need. That mathematics that makes a woman know that this quantity of salt should be what should enter a particular volume of soup. That's all. So you don't need much. So it's quite amazing. Yes. So can I receive a response now? I want to get a response. Yes. How did you see the lecture? Or any question? Now this question time now. Question or your response or whatever contribution you want to give. We're ending the lecture here now. But please do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more. And one more amazing thing you must do is try to replay the lecture again. Try to replay the lecture again. And as you are replaying it, right, I want to have some persons. I'll open the platform tomorrow. After some hours after I've sent the video, I want to see some of us who have made notes. Snap your note and send to the platform. That will encourage me to push on. That is the offering we will give here. Go there, subscribe, then read through replay the material, make note, then send in your offering. The offering you're sending is snap your jot down and send it in. There's somebody saying, is adding the dollar sign the only way to make the relative cell absolute? Yes. Yes. By adding dollar sign. There could be different ways of adding the dollar sign. You can use shortcut keys like F4. But the only thing that can make it absolute is the dollar sign. Yes. So please, more questions. Try to replay it. We're having another lecture again on Sunday, and I'm going to send we're not going to be having lectures on Saturdays because of church Sunday, but I want to see, someone is asking, please, where do you add a dollar sign? You add the dollar sign, okay, watch, let me repeat that again. Watch, let me repeat it again. It's very vital. It can be confusing at times. Watch. After you have solved, you must get the first one. Remember, we got the first one. We've got the first one. So having gotten the first one, is either you go to the formula bar or you double click on that first answer you got. Put the dollar sign before the letter F and after the letter F. Remember that the F10 is the cell you're making absolute. This F10, but you have to click in the result. So put a dollar sign before F and after F. In other words, if before F and before 10, before the letter. So you're making both F absolute and you're making 10 absolute. There are some situations also where we might need to make only the letter absolute. When we come there, we will look at it. So please, I think I would like to allow you go to sleep now. But by tomorrow, latest by 11, 12 noon, you will have the lecture on the platform. Try to go through it, make a note. I want, at the end of this class, I want to have people so good. Listen, we're going to deal with Excel lookup. We're going to look at the lookup tables. We're going to mess up the pivot table. That's the most the most interesting engine in Excel is the pivot table. The pivot table. Okay, thank you. The pivot table. We are going to make use of it so much. You see how within a space of 5 seconds, you will analyze a whole data that you cannot handle in months. So once again, I congratulate you for becoming an analyst